Hey guys, Jason here, and the vehicle that I selected for this video is going to be my personal vehicle, a 2022 Mercedes-AMG GLB 35. It came equipped with a Burmeister factory audio system. I built this vehicle with the intention of it being a demo vehicle for a high-end audio system. Did fabrication in the front pillars, added additional speakers to give a full active three-way setup, and then did a underfloor build in the rear hatch that's going to showcase the amplifiers and the sub, but also be completely out of sight if it doesn't need to be seen. The look I was going for is what I would consider to be OEM plus, where it looks like something was done but blends in with everything in the car. I took a lot of design cues from the interior. The interior is mostly based out of black leather, black suede, silver accents, and red stitching. When I was designing the new pillars, I wanted to make it so it didn't look out of place by adding in the Utopia midden tweets. I wanted it to subtly take in the themes of the rest of the vehicle. So it's wrapped in black suede. Around the tweeter, I did a laser cut piece that gives a green accent with also a silver and black trim. So it kind of ties in all of the things that you can see right next to it in the car. The only other sign of something being done in the front end of the vehicle is going to be the laser cut acrylic piece that I made for my DRC 205 knob. Also kind of wanted to stay on theme, cut the piece in a gloss black acrylic, did a red trim on it, matched some of the red stitching in the car. The primary knob color is going to be green, just like how I keep most of the interior lighting. Moving on to the rear of the vehicle, I really wanted to showcase the amplifiers and the sub. I built everything underneath the floor, so it is completely out of sight unless I want to showcase it. As you can see, I still kept with the theme of the vehicle, black vinyl, black suede, silver trim. Added red acrylic accents to go with the red stitching. All of the lighting is digitally controlled, addressable LEDs. Each panel has its own separate channel, so everything can light up separately or it can all be in sequence together through the controller. And it only comes on whenever the floor is lifted on. Now let's talk system design. The goal for this system was to be a demo vehicle for clientele to showcase all the things of fabrication, fully active DSP system, and giving full clarity, volume, and the correct staging to give a center image. After researching the Burmeister system in my vehicle, I found that Mobridge had an integration piece that was a most 1/6C coax that would allow me to get signal from the factory system and give me a perfectly flat output. It also retained all vehicle chimes, and it did away with any sort of factory produced fake engine noise. using that motor's priest, it goes optic signal into my VXI 808, which I use a low level signal from the 808 into the RD 501 for the sub. For a sub, I chose a 13 TW5. I wanted something shallow that could fit under that floor that didn't take up much space, but still was able to achieve some of those low frequency bass notes that I wanted. In the rear, I just kept the factory rear components. They're essentially seeing a full range signal from the amplifier that's been tuned. And up front is where we've got the Utopia three-way setup. I went with the Utopia 3.5M for the mid, and then the 165 WXPs for the woofer and tweeter setup. I kind of leaned this direction because the woofers were 2 ohm versus the Utopia M's that are 4 ohm. That way I can kind of draw more power from the amplifier and really take advantage of it. And of course I have the DRC 205 control knob that will allow me to do bass control, full volume control, and then select through all my presets. The Burmeister system sounded okay, but it was really lacking volume and clarity. Staging was just alright. The way they had that set up was an active two-way front, active two-way rear, center channel, and the front dash. So I did away with that, went with a three-way system up front. I killed that center channel and just have the two ways acting as a passive system off of the DSP amp in the rear. Luckily, in the rear, underneath the floor, there really wasn't much in there except for the previous audio system. An infinite baffle, sub, and then plastics, and then the factory amplifier. Everything got removed. Sound deadened everything on the entire floor. Sound deadened all the doors, outer skin, inner skin, and the actual panel itself. And then began to build into the trunk area for my sub enclosure and amp rack. Some additional details on the doors and the rest of the car. I did use SoundSkin's acoustic foam all throughout. Did some sound treatment with their wave breaker panel behind the speakers, and then also the foam trim in the front of the speaker to create the baffle between the door and the speaker itself. Also required some new speaker mounts to be made. Made all of those on the router from ABS and used all of the factory mounting points from the previous speaker setup to mount a plate where I could mount the new speaker to it. Alright, to start off on the wiring side of things, we go under the hood. I made an aluminum bracket that's mounted off of the factory battery cover. So all the power wire is mounted, the fuse is accessible from the exterior, and of course it's connected to the positive terminal from the battery. For the speakers, I ran all new wiring down both sides of the car all the way up to the pillars for both the mid and the tweet. All connections are soldered. There's XT connectors, and everything is easily removed and accessible if needed. For the doors, I just use the existing wiring because it's of good quality, and it's, I think, about a 16 gauge wire. As you can see in the pictures, all power and ground wires in flex loom. Everything has a color coordinated red or black according to power ground. For heat shrink, have main input into a fusible distribution block where factory ground point goes into the ground distribution, and then the 4 gauge input follows all the factory wiring up to the battery, and then everything's distributed out to all my accessories and amplifiers with its own separate fuse. I actually had a unique issue during this build that I needed to accomplish. I wanted the lighting in the rear to essentially turn on with the same pattern every time the floor lifted. I accomplished this with a micro switch that I mounted, so it picked up the pressure release whenever the floor was lifted. The problem that I was encountering was that whenever I did this with the micro switch going to the power to the unit, it would just pick up wherever it left off last on the pattern cycle. So I couldn't achieve the same pattern every time it opened. The way that I worked around this was that on the lighting module, it has an input mode. So you can use an input trigger, which I use as an external trigger on it, and have a switch that's mounted just above the side panel. And I can leave that switch on and then use the pressure switch going to the constant power to the module. So whenever the module sees power, the trigger is getting the external to send it like it's basically being opened brand new for the first time. Without that trigger switch, what happens is that it just constantly opens up with the same pattern every time where it leaves off, versus starting the whole pattern over every time the floor is open. For fabrication, we'll start off with everything that I did with the laser and light burn. I wanted to do a kind of nicer mounting solution for the DRC knob instead of just drilling a hole into a panel and having it surface mounted. So I used the area underneath the HVAC, built a panel that kind of blends in out of black gloss acrylic. I did some relief indentations into the piece so I could bend it and have it so it can double side to the bottom of the panel. And then I also etched into it, used red paint and painted it with all of the paper backing on there. So that way when you pulled off the backing, we'd have the red accents that match the car and then give a perfect mount for the knob. It's something that blends in for the most part, and people don't even know that it's an add-on piece. For the next piece that I created, I wanted something in the trunk area that was just kind of a showy display piece, show off the two major brands that were used in the build with kind of a cool design graphic. So something I threw together in Lightburn. Now I only have a laser at home. It's just a small 40 watt. We do not have one at work. So for larger pieces, I'll do all the design work, and then I have a local plastic company with a very large scale laser, and they'll do all the cutting and everything that I need with my file work. We have a great relationship. Hopefully sometime down the line, I'll have a laser at work that's larger and kind of can do more hands-on things. But for now, it's just been nice to learn Lightburn, learn how lasers work, and kind of get the concept down on the 2D side of things. And for the last part of the laser work on this build, I made all the rings for the pillars for the Utopia 3-way setup in the front. Wanted it to be a perfect fit, especially for that Utopia tweeter that has kind of an odd shape. That way I can build everything perfectly, have perfect fitment of the speakers into the pillars. You can also see that I have threaded inserts pressed inside, using all stainless hardware to mount all the speakers and giving it a very solid foundation on the build for the pillar. Now onto the pillar build. As I mentioned before, I wanted this to be a very OEM looking build, so nothing crazy, no hard lines, no weird angles. I wanted something that didn't obstruct the view at all, and then when I finished product that it just kind of blends in with the car. Kind of started with the rings, moving them in different placements until I found a good placement that would sound good as well as look good. Molded those in, used fiberglass, kind of standard techniques there, lots of sanding, and then finishing it off with black splayed. for the sub enclosure and the hatch, after I got down all the sound skins dampening, I wanted to build a mold into the floor where the infinite baffle sub used to be. I built some framework and went into fiberglassing, building it up. I think there's about 3 layers for the baffle. That way we've got appropriate airspace. Everything is super rigid. Creates a very stable setting inside of the acoustic foam. No rattling on the outside of the vehicle, no rattling on the inside of the vehicle. Definitely came out better than I hoped, having it done in that way. All the trim pieces were made from expanded PVC. I wanted to keep the design work mostly simple, but give windows into the amplifiers, into the sub, and then of course have a area for my display piece. One thing that I've always wanted to do, I've seen on videos, pictures, the kind of light up resin tables. I've always thought that was a really cool thing, just something I've never had a chance to do. What better way to try something out than on my very own car? That way, if anybody wants to do something in the future, I've kind of got this concept down. So that was kind of a cool experience to kind of build my own resin table, cut it up, and use it as a trim piece. I did it out of a metallic silver, added into the clear resin epoxy, and then that way it gives me that silver accent when all the lighting is off. Even with the lighting inside of it, it still comes out to be a very cool appearance. I'm sure by now you guys are tired of hearing my voice, so we'll close out the fabrication side of things with a couple videos of me working on some final pictures of the build and the trunk, and maybe play some cool music for you guys to listen to.
Hello, Morgan Freeman here, and it is with great pleasure that I introduce to you one of the top 12 installers in North America, Jason Singer.
Hey, I'm Jason Singer, and I'm one of the top 12 alternates that managed to sneak in at the last moment. I'd say personally and professionally, I've evolved quite a bit. I got married in this past year, so personally, that's a huge change to my life. I've been with my girlfriend for about 9 years, so nothing super crazy, but it is nice to actually have an official title. As far as professionally goes, I've just tried to keep pushing myself, thinking outside of the box, do new techniques, try new things. I've been learning off of YouTube and off of the internet from fellow installers in the industry, anything that I can help elevate my capabilities as an installer. Over the past year, I've done a few different things to enhance my knowledge and abilities. I went to Master Tech Expo, learned a ton there. I was also invited to JL Audio's Mac certification in their inaugural class, so that was quite an honor to be chosen to go to the very first class and really get a deep dive into DSP tuning with the Macs. It helps that I have the same VXI amp in my car, and we have Macs at work, so it really elevated my tuning ability and a ton of knowledge that I gained on the sound quality side of things for what I do on a daily basis. In the next year, I obviously plan on attending Knowledge Fest in Las Vegas. It should be a great educational event. Um, it's going to be cool to kind of see the in-person award ceremony and go through that experience. Hope to learn a lot while I'm there and reconnect with a lot of the fellow 12 volt guys in the industry. Also, hopefully, I'm going to make the Master Tech and kind of dive more into the laser and CNC side of classes that I didn't get to take last time. That should help me on everything that I'm kind of currently trying to understand and learn and use more frequently. That's really how I plan on applying it for the kind of upcoming year. I'd say my role within the store is going to be kind of the full-on gadget installer. I can do everything from DSP tuning to intense fabrication to everyday backup camera, remote start, radio installs. So I'm kind of universally used for everything. But whenever there's like a real special project or a high-end vehicle, whether it be for custom radar installs or full-blown audio with DSP and custom fabrication, I'm definitely the one that they kind of look for that. And I love being in that position. I like connecting with the clients and going over everything and being able to kind of deliver the experience and hopefully over deliver the experience that they came in here for. So everything that I do is usually really well thought out, and customers really appreciate that, and they're always happy to receive that end result. I love all the industry related courses like Knowledge Fest and Master Tech, and even the corporate sponsored classes. Anything that I can go and learn more and be able to hang out with other guys in the industry and act like a sponge and learn from them, I always take it up. Here at PDA, I also invite high school work study program kids. Usually we do a couple classes with about 50 kids or so. And we just go over what we do in the industry and some of the fine points of different aspects and really kind of show them things that they would never know that we do here in a kind of a car audio business. So that's a real rewarding experience, and it helps me kind of hopefully mold the next generation into the 12 volt industry. Why do I believe I should win Installer of the Year? Well, to be completely honest, I do not think I should win Installer of the Year. I don't think I'm quite there yet. I'm honored to be top 12 and can't wait to see final placement. But there's definitely some other guys that I feel like are way ahead of me and far more deserving. But that being said, this is a goal of mine to be installer of the year in the next few years. It's something that I've got my eyes set on, and I'm going to do everything that I can to advance myself and my techniques and kind of make it to where I see some of those other guys at that I believe are going to win this year.